are as follows. Anger is a powerful motivation in which the offender plays rage or hostility toward either a certain subgroup of the population, such as the homeless, or society as a whole. Prostitutes are a huge population that are often utilized by serial killers. They're easy prey. They're typically in a subgroup of the population that they don't have attachments to their families anymore, or no one would miss them if they went missing, right? No one would call up and say, hey, I miss Barbara. She's not been here in 2 days and she's normally here. Well, she's a prostitute, so she could be off, doing tricks, and she'll show back up in 5 days. So that type of lifestyle is very difficult to use as a motivator. But, anger, in any case, can cause many different reactions, right? We see that in our classrooms as well, children who can't control their anger. Criminal enterprise is a motivation in which the offender benefits in status or monetary reward by committing murder that is drug, gang, or organized crime related. For example, murder may be perpetrated by a drug gang in order to eliminate its competition. And how many movies do we have about that? I mean, there's all kinds where the mob kills people off to gain power. That happens. I mean, that happens today. I don't know if you're aware of that. We kind of romanticized it when we had, Martin Scorsese doing films, and like The Godfather, and we make that look like it's fun or something to be admired, when in fact it's completely the opposite. I probably shouldn't say I love, but I really enjoy reading about the mafia. All different, there's multiple mafias. There's Spanish mafia, there's New York mafia, there's all kinds of mafias, but I really enjoy reading about them because of their mentality. I'm actually reading a book right now that is purely fiction, but the author really did their research on what the relationships are within the mob, and they are so dedicated to like the rules or the laws of the mafia. If you're in the mafia, this is not allowed or that is not allowed, or if it is, you're going to die. If you rat out your group, even if you are, placed in witness protection, you're probably going to end up dead. There's all these many unspoken rules that happen. And this book is just chock full of them, because they're talking about, most of the wives in the mafia don't work, but this particular wife decided she wanted to work, and just a lot of different rules, and rules that we don't in a normal society follow. So criminal enterprise, you wouldn't necessarily consider those people to be serial killers, but they are. They are serial killers. They absolutely meet that definition of killing people, not in a rage, not in, like they don't kill 4 people at the same time per se. They just consistently kill people throughout their lifetime for whatever their motivation is. Doesn't even matter. But, organized crime for sure is a great example of that. And again, we don't really think about those people as being serial killers, but certainly they are. They really are. Financial gain is a motivation in which the offender benefits monetarily from killing that is not drug, gang, or organized crime related. Now, I would think right off the bat, Murdaugh in South Carolina, the attorney who killed his wife, and he was convicted of killing his wife and son, that was motivated by money. And what they have found during the trial as well as after the trial, typically even after a trial, you will learn considerably more information even after the trial, just because of people's interest in it and other people digging things up, which is the case in Murdaugh. So We see that a lot. There's a lot of people who kill their spouses for their insurance money, and it's not funny, but I automatically think before the show is even a third of the way through, wonder if they had a life insurance policy, and if they did have a life insurance policy, was it a great big one? Was it was it just a maybe a $10,000 one? That's, to me, that wouldn't be worth killing anybody. But if it's a $10 million one, maybe so, right? Money is a motivator for many, many things. So financial gain, very, very common. Typically, those that are for financial gain are very intimate killings. They are with family members, spouses, best friends, things like that. So, not being funny when I say this, if you do have a really large life insurance policy, don't tell anybody about it. It's not wise to do that. Even the person that you have as the benefactor, I wouldn't tell them. They don't need to know, because we live in a desperate world where people do things, make decisions they wouldn't normally make because they are, desperate, desperate. And money is a very powerful evil in our world. So, all right. So ideology is another guideline. It's a motivation to commit murder in order to further the goals and ideas of a specific individual or group. Examples include a terrorist group or an individual who attacks a specific racial, gender, or ethnic group out of sheer hatred for the group. Unfortunately, this is alive and well in the world. Certainly, we're all aware of terrorist groups and how they train people up to strap a bomb to themselves and go to a public place where a large majority of that population will be killed or hurt, severely hurt. And they do that not only to further the goals and ideas of a specific individual or group, they do that because of the power that it creates. We as a society become very scared, very cautious. It changes our way of doing things because we don't want those things to happen again. If you're my age, you'll know intimately when we had, 9/11 occur, and that changed everything about the airline industry. That's when, they started having security as you go in, and everything is searched, and all of your luggage. We can't even carry large bottles of shampoo anymore, or anything for that matter. So it changed our way of life. And it's interesting that there are some of my students have no idea how things were prior to. They've never experienced going to the airport and just, walking straight, into the airport with no interaction from anyone and going straight on the airplane. Just, I remember those days long before 9/11, and we probably were very naive, obviously, because terrorists figured out a way to really get into our mind. I mean, they did this. They killed all these people in a very, very horrific way. It continued. Remember the shoe bomb? It continued, and it's literally changed our way of life. So, crazy. It really is crazy when you stop and think about it. Now, power or thrill is a motivation in which the offender feels empowered and or exhilarated when he kills. The act of killing is an end in itself. So that, that's your thrill killers. There's probably a lot of those. I think most serial killers would fall into this power or thrill as a motivator. Maybe not initially, but they continue to do these things because of the sense of power that it gives them, that euphoria that they get, that dopamine hit. So it makes sense to me that this might be a common denominator among most serial killers. Psychosis is a rare situation in which the offender is suffering from a severe mental illness and is killing specifically because of that illness. The condition may include auditory and or visual hallucinations and paranoid, grandiose, or bizarre delusions. You know, that happens all the time. You don't see these people in the news like you see your typical serial killer because we consider them to be mentally ill and we don't try to sensationalize what they did. It's bad enough, right? But they go into a mental hospital and they stay there either for life or until they're deemed to be rehabilitated. So those are the people who hear the voices, right? You know, the voice that, you know, told me to do this, or the person in my closet told me to do this. They really have this, you know, damaged mentality, and they're really not held accountable for what they're doing, what they've done, because of their mental illness. And honestly, that's, for me, that there's a very fine line between rehabilitation and successful rehabilitation for these people. Even if in that hospital setting they are quote unquote successfully rehabilitated with the use of medications, I still don't feel like they should ever be released, because once they're outside of that safe environment where everything that they do is monitored closely, their medicines are given to them very strictly, you know, they're okay there. But the minute they walk out that door, many of them stop taking their medications, and then you're back to hallucinations, paranoid schizophrenia, delusions. I don't think they're ever safe to be out amongst the general population, but it happens. It happens. Sexually based is a motivation driven by the sexual needs or desires of the offender, and there may or may not be evidence of sexual contact present at the crime scene. Can you think of someone we talk about on a regular basis, who had sexual, I'm not going to say contact, but had his murders included a sexual piece, but he didn't rape anybody? Not that we know of thus far. Can you think of anybody we've talked about? I'll give you a minute. You know, BTK was one of those who, as far as we know up till today, never raped anybody, but he did masturbate next to the bodies. If you remember, what is noted as his first killing was that family. Several of the children were at school. A couple of them were at home. The parents were at home. And he killed all of them. And then he took the youngest daughter downstairs, hung her from the rafters, and then masturbated. They didn't find semen on her. They found it in the floor. So he did that in most of his killings. He didn't rape them, but he did become sexually aroused and would masturbate and leave DNA at the scene. So, you know, different people are motivated by different things. In addition to him binding, torturing, and killing these victims, he also got off on that sexually. So there may be a sexual motivator, and then there may not be. But even if they rape them, and that's a sexual act, it may not be the sexual act that they want. It's that feeling of power that they get. They're not necessarily attracted to the person. It's not anybody that they would, let's say, date or be attracted to physically. But that sexual act helps them feel powerful.